The series begins with a young woman named Hyun-jin, a hardworking girl who earns a living doing delivery jobs, and a young man named Tae-hyung, a photographer. Both of them carry big dreams in their hearts, hoping that one day their lives will change for the better. Hyun-jin has applied for a new job, one completely different from delivery work. She dreams of becoming a chef. Tae-hyung, on the other hand, longs for the day he can afford his own private apartment, a place he can decorate and furnish exactly the way he wants. But in a single moment, all their hopes begin to shift when a little boy named Woo-ju unexpectedly enters their lives. Who is this child? And why does he suddenly become part of their story? To find out, we dive into the events of the drama. We first see our heroine leaving her delivery job as rain begins to pour. Instead of running from it, she decides to take advantage of the supermarket discounts happening because of the storm. Inside the store, she runs into her younger sister, Hyun-ju. The two happily shop together and later sit down to enjoy their favorite foods. While they are eating, Hyun-jin suddenly notices a ring inside her sister's bag, a proposal ring. It turns out that it was given to Hyun-ju by Woo-jin, a man who intends to marry her. Later, Hyun-jin meets Woo-jin and asks him directly about it. He confirms that it's true. He wants to marry her sister. Hyun-jin tells him she approves and even suggests that both families meet that very evening. She asks him to bring his siblings as well. Meanwhile, we see Tae-hyung at a club, drinking heavily while girls he previously photographed praise his skills, yet also gossip about him behind his back. The next morning, Tae-hyung wakes up with regret, remembering how much he drank and how much money he wasted. As the engagement day approaches, Hyun-jin notices her sister admiring a beautiful designer lamp in a photo. Even though it's expensive, she decides she wants to buy it as a gift for her. Her best friend, Se-yeon, comes to visit and asks why she seems troubled. Hyun-jin shows her the picture of the costly lamp and says she needs to find someone reselling it at a cheaper price. At the same time, Tae-hyung, stressed about the money he wasted, is advised by his friends to sell some of his belongings, so he lists 2 lamps online for sale. Hyun-jin and Se-yeon discover that someone is selling the exact lamp she wants. She contacts the seller and arranges to meet him. When they finally meet, Hyun-jin asks him to lower the price since the lamp is slightly used. She explains that she doesn't have family support and that she raised her sister herself. She wants to give the lamp as a meaningful engagement gift, but Tae-hyung refuses to reduce the price. She then insists on taking the lamp apart to inspect it properly. The situation quickly escalates. They argue loudly inside a restaurant, drawing attention. In the chaos, the lamp falls and shatters. The restaurant staff ask them to leave. Hyun-jin refuses to pay for the broken lamp, arguing it was already faulty, but in her frustration, she forgets her phone behind. When Tae-hyung gets home, he realizes he still has her phone. Soon she calls it and asks him to return it urgently because the next day is her sister's family introduction ceremony before the wedding. While holding her phone, Tae-hyung notices the wallpaper photo. It's Woo-jin and Hyun-ju dressed like a bride and groom. The moment he sees Woo-jin's face, he freezes. He recognizes him. Woo-jin is his older brother, the one who abandoned him when he was young and left him alone. At the family meeting, Tae-hyung arrives to return Hyun-jin's phone. He sits at the table and suddenly calls out to Woo-jin, "Brother?" Everyone is shocked. They don't understand what he means, but Tae-hyung calmly explains that Woo-jin is indeed his older brother, though they haven't seen each other in years. Then Hyun-jin's sister asks what Tae-hyung does for a living. He answers simply, "I'm a photographer." And after that, he quietly leaves. Tae-hyung runs after his older brother Woo-jin, but Woo-jin stops him. Tae-hyung, overwhelmed with anger, tells him that he waited for him for years, that he was abandoned and left alone with no one by his side. And now? Now he's done waiting. This time, he is the one walking away. When Tae-hyung returns home, he opens a small box filled with childhood memories, an old camera his brother once gave him, along with photographs from their youth. After staring at them for a long moment, he makes a painful decision. He throws them into the trash. Memories flood back to him, the night his brother left him. It was raining heavily. Woo-jin had promised he would return, but he never did. The wedding day finally arrives, the wedding of Hyun-ju and Woo-jin. Hyun-jin notices that Tae-hyung does not attend his brother's wedding. Time passes. 3 years later, Hyun-jin is now working a new job. Tae-hyung has finally achieved part of his dream. He owns his own apartment. It's old and worn down, but it's his. He plans to renovate and decorate it the way he always wanted, but misfortune strikes. Hyunjin suddenly loses her job. Heartbroken and anxious about how to tell her sister, she returns home. Her sister has prepared food for her. Gently, she tells Hyunjin that she should quit exhausting herself with endless work and instead move back home to rest and live comfortably. Hyunjin then discovers that her sister has prepared a room for her, hoping they can live together again. But Hyunjin becomes angry. She wants to build her own life independently. She doesn't want to rely on her sister forever. Overcome with emotion, she shouts at her sister and storms out of the house. Meanwhile, Woo Jin is at the police station. He is now a police chief. It is his wedding anniversary, and he plans to take time off work to spend the day with his family. But suddenly, he receives an urgent message regarding their father. He tries calling Tae-hyung, but Tae-hyung doesn't answer. Woo Jin and his wife get into the car. Hyunju is typing apology messages to her sister, still feeling guilty about their earlier argument. Then, tragedy strikes. A large truck crashes into their car at full speed. Hyunjin and Tae-hyung both receive devastating phone calls. Their siblings are dead. They rush to the scene. Hyunjin cries uncontrollably, remembering their childhood together. Tae-hyung remains silent, replaying the last harsh words he said to his brother. At the funeral hall, Hyunjin is overwhelmed with grief. She blames herself for shouting at her sister. Then Tae-hyung arrives. Suddenly, from one of the rooms, a small child walks out, the son of Hyunju and Woo Jin. He survived the accident. The little boy begins crying, calling out softly, "Mama!" Hyunjin picks him up and tries to comfort him, but the boy wriggles free and runs toward Tae-hyung. Hyunjin rushes to catch him, but accidentally bumps into a nearby tree and injures herself. Woo Jin's colleagues from the police station arrive to offer condolences to Tae-hyung. Later, Tae-hyung is asked how his brother should be buried. What kind of funeral arrangements should be made? Torn between emotions, he tells them to choose whatever they think is best. The little boy keeps following Tae-hyung around, clinging to him and bothering him. Annoyed, Tae-hyung gives him chocolate to distract him, but the child isn't satisfied. "Carry me," he says. Reluctantly, Tae-hyung lifts him, and suddenly, the boy throws up all over his clothes. Frustrated, Tae-hyung rushes to the bathroom to wash himself. The mischievous little boy runs inside after him, even pulling at the bathroom door. When Tae-hyung steps out, he sees Hyunjin with her arm wrapped in a bandage. She tries to carry the child, but is too weak to lift him. While they are still at the funeral, Hyunjin's best friend arrives and hugs her tightly, crying as she offers her condolences. Later, Hyunjin plays gently with the little boy as the funeral guests slowly leave and night falls. The next morning, a man from the court arrives. He asks who will take legal responsibility for the child. Tae-hyung immediately refuses. He says clearly that he is only responsible for himself. But Hyunjin steps forward. She declares that she will take responsibility for Wooju. Hyunjin steps outside, struggling to carry her belongings. Tae-hyung sees her and silently helps, loading her things into the car. Before leaving, he tells her firmly that he doesn't want to see her again. And then he drives away. Hyunjin carries little Wooju in her arms and returns to her sister's house. The child begins crying loudly, calling out, "Mama!" She doesn't know what to do. As she walks through the house, memories surround her, moments she shared with her sister. She finds a handwritten letter her sister left behind. It reads, "I'm sorry, Hyunjin." She also sees the apology messages her sister had sent her. At that very moment, another notification appears on her phone, a message from the company she had applied to. She has passed the first stage and been invited to an interview. Overwhelmed, Hyunjin breaks down in tears, regretting how harshly she had spoken to her sister. As she sobs alone, little Wooju walks toward her, still crying. He buries himself in her chest, and the two cry together. Meanwhile, Tae-hyung meets his friend, and they drink together. He tells him that his brother has died and left behind a child. Coldly, he admits that he doesn't feel as devastated as he expected. After all, his brother had already abandoned him long before his death. But one thing keeps troubling him. He was the last person Woojin tried to call. Tae-hyung keeps wondering why. The next morning, Hyunjin prepares breakfast for Wooju. She doesn't know what babies are supposed to eat, so she searches online for guidance. But the child refuses the food she makes. Exhausted and overwhelmed, she suddenly hears a knock. It's her best friend, Se-yeon. She is shocked at the state of the house and at how tired Hyunjin looks. Se-yeon steps in to help. She washes Hyunjin's hair and helps take care of Wooju. Hyunjin then confesses that she's worried about who will look after the child on the day of her interview. Se-yeon reassures her. She says she will request a day off from work and watch the baby herself. Hyunjin feels relieved and happy. Later, the three of them sit together in the living room. Woo-ju, exhausted, eventually falls asleep. On the other side, Tae-hyung brings workers to his old apartment. He tells them he wants it renovated and modernized. The contractor warns him that the apartment is very old and will require a lot of work, but Tae-hyung insists he's willing to pay whatever it takes. Elsewhere, Chef Young-seong is preparing a meal for important VIP guests. He is a manager at BS Food, the very company Hyunjin applied to. When the job applications are brought to him, he flips through the files and suddenly pauses when he sees Hyunjin's application. A soft smile appears on his face. It's clear he already knows her and perhaps even has a quiet crush on her. The day of Hyunjin's interview finally arrives. She busies herself getting ready. At the same time, Tae-hyung is designing ideas for his renovated apartment. Just as Hyunjin finishes preparing and is feeding Woo-ju, her phone rings. It's Si-yeon. Her voice is apologetic. Her manager refused to grant her leave and assigned her work. She can't come. Panic sets in. Hyunjin tries asking the mothers in her neighborhood to watch the child, but they all refuse. She calls her friends one by one. Each of them makes an excuse. Desperate, she sends a message to Tae-hyung. "If you don't come urgently, I'll give up raising this child." He arrives. She pleads with him. "Just 3 hours. Please watch him for 3 hours. You're his uncle, and he clearly likes you." He refuses. Her voice trembles as she continues. "I'm injured because of your sister-in-law. My hand still hurts. I can't even carry him properly. If I miss today's interview, what kind of future will Woo-ju have?" Tears stream down her face. She leaves, saying, "Take good care of him and don't give him chocolate." Tae-hyung looks around the house. He sees photographs of his brother and sister-in-law. Then Woo-ju walks up to him and says softly, "Carry me." Tae-hyung hesitates, but then lifts him into his arms, and slowly he carries the child with him to his own apartment. When Tae-hyung brings the child to his apartment, Woo-ju immediately begins crying. Tae-hyung opens the fridge, searching for something suitable to feed him, but there's nothing a child can eat. Frustrated, he orders burgers and fries instead and starts feeding them to the little boy. While Woo-ju is eating, Tae-hyung steps away and calls the construction workers renovating his apartment. Meanwhile, Hyunjin attends her interview. She passionately explains how she fell in love with cooking from a young age and how she can introduce creative new dishes to the company. Back at the apartment, chaos erupts. While Tae-hyung isn't paying attention, Woo-ju smears ketchup everywhere. On the floor, the furniture, even on Tae-hyung's bed and belongings. The entire place becomes a disaster zone. Tae-hyung shouts in frustration so loudly that neighbors come out to see what's happening. He picks up the child and tries to call Hyunjin, but Woo-ju grabs the phone and throws it. The phone flies out and is crushed by a passing car on the street below. Enraged, Tae-hyung takes Woo-ju to the company where Hyunjin is interviewing. Out of spite, he lets the child run loose, mixing up food displays and making a mess everywhere. "If I'm suffering, I won't suffer alone," he mutters. Hyunjin is horrified. She tries to scold him as Woo-ju continues ruining the food display area. In the middle of their argument, the child wanders toward a decorative water fountain. Suddenly, he slips in. Without hesitation, Hyunjin jumps into the water and pulls him out. After that incident, the two of them part ways again. She takes Woo-ju home and gives him a bath. Meanwhile, Tae-hyung returns to his apartment feeling relieved, finally free from the troublesome child. The next morning, the construction workers call him with bad news. The apartment's plumbing has collapsed, and renovation can't continue. On top of that, all his belongings are delivered to the apartment. He had already moved out of his previous place. He tries to rent another apartment, but nothing is available. Then an idea strikes him. He loads all his belongings and shows up at Hyunjin's house. Surprised, she asks him what he wants. He replies calmly, "Didn't you say I'm Woo-ju's uncle? And since you and I can't seem to separate from him, I'm here." She protests, saying they can't live together under the same roof. He responds, "Fine, then pay me back for the money I lost because of your child, my broken phone and the damages. Altogether, it's 5.6 million won." She argues, "We're a man and a woman, how can we live together?" He smirks and says, "I'm not asking you. The house belongs to Woo-ju. Let's ask him." He walks over to the child and asks, "Do you allow me to live here?" Woo-ju nods his head. "There," he agreed. And just like that, Tae-hyung starts organizing and fixing the house. The next morning, Hyunjin wakes up to a completely cleaned house. Breakfast is prepared. Woo-ju has been bathed and dressed. Even his meal is ready. When she enters the bathroom, she notices Tae-hyung has placed his belongings everywhere, marking his presence throughout the house. After feeding Woo-ju breakfast, Tae-hyung takes him outside to play. Hyun-jin watches in surprise and a little happiness. Then her phone buzzes. She has officially been hired by BS Food. Tae-hyung congratulates her and says, "Go out and celebrate with your friends. Buy yourself work clothes. I'll watch the kid." She meets her friend and tells her that Tae-hyung is now living in the house. Her friend says it's not strange as long as nothing romantic is happening between them. They're simply housemates. Hyun-jin also explains that daycare centers are too expensive and she can't afford them. When she returns home, she tells Tae-hyung she agrees to let him stay, but only for 1 month. During that month, they will split all responsibilities equally. They sign a 50-50 agreement. And just like that, their chaotic co-living life begins. After Hyun-jin and Tae-hyung make an agreement to split everything 50-50, she tells him that he is not allowed to touch anything in that room. He tells her that if she ever comes into his room, she must knock first. Then he leaves. After that, they start saving each other's phone numbers. Tae-hyung saves her number as temporary house, while Hyun-jin saves his as temporary assistant. Later, she knocks on his door and asks him to be honest, saying he probably will not move out after a month. But he tells her that he doesn't even want to see her after a month. She then tells him to take good care of Woo-ju while she is at work. After that, Tae-hyung asks his boss for a month off so he can take care of Woo-ju. The boss refuses at first, but Tae-hyung tries to convince him. In the end, the boss agrees, but tells him he must do a job in return by taking photos of a hotel. Tae-hyung accepts, and we see him arranging things in the hotel and taking pictures. On the other side, we see a famous photographer named Amy. Her assistant wakes her up from sleep and brings her coffee. They talk about work and she asks him to find beautiful locations for a shoot. He goes out while talking on the phone and searching for the place she requested. Then he overhears people talking in another room and listens. When he enters, Tae-hyung gets startled. The man asks him if he is a photographer. When Tae-hyung says yes, the man gives him a card and says he works with Amy. Meanwhile, Hyun-jin prepares a schedule for the little boy. She writes small notes explaining how Tae-hyung should feed and take care of the child and sticks them on the wall. Tae-hyung returns home, still thinking about the card he received. He remembers the time he met Amy's director, who told him that his photos were beautiful and suggested he work with Amy, but Tae-hyung had refused. Then Hyun-jin enters and calls him over. She hands him a small notebook containing the child's schedule. Tae-hyung feels annoyed by how strict she is, but she tells him that Woo-ju must be raised properly and that he must always update her about the child's condition. Tae-hyung is surprised. She says they must always think about the child, but Tae-hyung just leaves. The next morning, Hyun-jin feeds the child breakfast. Then she realizes she is late for work. She knocks on Tae-hyung's door and asks him to finish feeding the child, then she rushes to work. Tae-hyung starts feeding the child. Hyun-jin takes the bus to work and arrives at her workplace, feeling very happy as their first training session begins. Meanwhile, Tae-hyung is cleaning the house and sees the notes she stuck on the wall. He begins taking photos of the child and sends them to Hyun-jin to update her about Woo-ju. When she sees them, she feels very happy. Later, Tae-hyung looks at the clock and realizes it is almost the time Hyun-jin should arrive home, so he goes to take a shower. But while he is showering, the water suddenly turns cold. When he checks the problem, Hyun-jin arrives and is shocked to see him with shampoo on his head. They try to fix the problem together, but cannot figure it out. They call technicians, but they are told the repair will cost a lot of money. Tae-hyung tells her to hang up the call, but she says Woo-ju has not taken a bath yet and asks what they should do. Tae-hyung says it is up to her and leaves. She starts looking for a bucket to heat water for the child. While she heats the water, Tae-hyung holds the child. Then they begin bathing him, but the child keeps making things difficult. After finishing, they both feel extremely tired. While they rest, they see the child playing in water again, so they rush over and dry him. The next morning, when Hyun-jin goes to work, Tae-hyung sends her a photo of the child as usual. She prepares for work, but a man brings many files and tells her she must read them to understand the company's work. She tells him she has already read everything. He is surprised and asks if she is the girl with the troublesome child and the man who accompanied her during the interview. He also says she is still wearing the same clothes from the video recorded that day. Hyun-jin becomes embarrassed and goes to her friend. Her friend makes it worse by asking if she is the person in the video. She says the whole world has watched it. Hyun-jin becomes even more embarrassed, but her friend tells her not to worry because her face cannot be seen clearly. Meanwhile, Tae-hyung is still trying to fix the water heater. He calls someone and says the child has no hot water to bathe today. They tell him to look for another device. A neighbor then comes, and Tae-hyung asks for help. The neighbor begins fixing it. At work, Hyun-jin sees a man who used to attend the same university as her when they were younger. She is surprised. He introduces himself and says he is the manager there. She remembers that she once rejected his confession and cannot believe what is happening. Later, while she is working, she suddenly notices him looking at her and becomes shy. At the same time, Tae-hyung and the neighbor are still fixing the device when suddenly electricity sparks. Tae-hyung tries to put out the fire while the neighbor runs away. When Hyun-jin returns home, she sees the water heater is still not working. She calls the landlord, but no one answers. She tries to send a message explaining the problem, but Tae-hyung grabs the phone and tells her to speak firmly so they do not see weakness. Instead, he writes, "Why aren't you answering my wife's calls?" She is shocked and snatches the phone, asking why he is lying and if he is her husband. They start arguing, but suddenly the message gets sent. Hyun-jin becomes embarrassed. Meanwhile, the child is playing in the washing area while they continue arguing. Then Hyun-jin reads messages in her workgroup chat and sees people talking about the video about her. She becomes very upset seeing the insults. She shows Tae-hyung and says he has ruined her entire life and that it is all his fault. Tae-hyung tells her to act normally, but she keeps shouting that he has humiliated her. Tae-hyung asks who she is talking about. She says she does not want the manager to see that video and think she is a bad girl. Tae-hyung asks why she cares about what other people think. The next day, she showers with cold water and feels very cold. She feeds Wooju breakfast, and Tae-hyung asks why she did not heat the water. She rushes to work while coughing. That night, when Hyun-jin returns home, she looks at photos of herself and Yoon-seong from their school days and feels happy. The next day at work, she is still coughing and hears employees saying the manager will not come tomorrow. She feels relieved because she had been showering early because of him. The following day, she goes to work without showering, but when she is leaving home, the little child pinches his nose because of her smell. When she arrives at work, she is surprised to see that the manager is actually there. Meanwhile, Tae-hyung is washing the child's clothes. He realizes he also smells bad and remembers how Hyun-jin was coughing after showering with cold water. He then takes out the card he received from the director and leaves the child with his friends. He goes to the man and says he is ready for the job. The director tells him to act calm because Amy is very arrogant. Tae-hyung agrees and begins taking photos. Soon Amy arrives and everyone greets her. Tae-hyung tells her the lights are set up and everything is ready. She asks who he is. He says he is a photographer. She tells him she does not need an assistant and that he should leave. He tries to convince her. Then Amy starts taking photos while Tae-hyung tries to adjust the lights. She asks who told him to do that. He says he was only adjusting the camera, but she looks at him arrogantly. Meanwhile, Hyun-jin attends a meeting with the manager and other employees about improving the company. She tries to share her ideas while the manager watches her. After the meeting, she continues working, and the manager notices that she is coughing. Elsewhere, Tae-hyung's friends ask him how things went with Amy. He says it was only a one-day job. They ask how he could miss such a chance since he admired her when he was younger. Tae-hyung says he only wanted to earn money to fix the water heater. Later, Hyun-jin enters the elevator with her manager and continues coughing. He offers to drive her home, which surprises her. Meanwhile, Tae-hyung finally gets the water heater repaired and pays the man. The manager drops Hyun-jin at home and asks when she moved there. She nervously says she moved in a few months ago. He says they have not seen each other for 7 years. They talk briefly, then he says goodbye. Hyun-jin enters the house and sees everything messy. She starts cleaning, but Tae-hyung tells her to leave it because he will fix it. He tells her he had to go somewhere and left the child with his friends. She becomes angry, saying their agreement did not include taking the child elsewhere. She asks why he did not inform her. Tae-hyung says the child broke his camera and that everything seems to be getting worse while they live together. They both start shouting. Hyun-jin complains that she cannot even bathe and says people run away from her smell. Tae-hyung tells her he has finally fixed the water heater. She becomes happy and goes to shower. Later, she checks on the child and sees he is sleeping. Then she sits at the table where Tae-hyung is drinking and tells him to reduce his drinking. But then she brings a large bottle and says that this is the kind she likes. They start drinking together. It is raining that night, and she says she has always loved rainy days. She thanks him for fixing the shower. They end up drinking too much that night. The next morning, Tae-hyung wakes up and sees Hyun-jin lying on his bed. Both of them suddenly scream at the same time, while Woo-ju just laughs at them. Both of them start arguing and shouting at each other. After that, they begin cleaning the table where they had been drinking the previous night. While cleaning, they slowly start remembering the things they did the night before, and both of them feel embarrassed. They decide that they will never drink again, but they continue arguing. Tae-hyung eventually leaves, while Hyun-jin begins feeding the child. Later, Hyun-jin goes to meet her friend and tells her about what happened the night before. Her friend screams loudly when she hears the story, and people around them are surprised by her shouting. Hyun-jin tries to calmly explain everything, but her friend says she feels that Hyun-jin must have fallen in love with that man and slept with him because of that. Hyun-jin becomes very angry at this accusation. Meanwhile, Tae-hyung is playing a game with his friends. They ask him where Woo-ju is, and he tells them that the child is with his aunt. His friends start joking with him, asking if living together with Hyun-jin is comfortable. Tae-hyung gets annoyed by their teasing. They continue joking and say that both he and Hyun-jin smell like the same shampoo, asking if they shower together. Tae-hyung becomes even more irritated and leaves. When they return home, Hyun-jin is talking to herself in front of the mirror. At the same time, Tae-hyung is showering and remembers what his friend said about both of them smelling like the same shampoo, which makes him even more annoyed. Afterward, Tae-hyung also stands in front of the mirror and talks to himself, asking why he is even afraid of her and whether he is a child. Later, when he tries to open the window, Hyun-jin helps him. He begins looking at her deeply. She blushes slightly, while he continues staring without looking away. Even the little child looks confused. She asks what is wrong, and Tae-hyung suddenly becomes embarrassed and quickly pretends nothing happened. He then starts working at the sink area. When Hyun-jin notices his strong arms, she finds herself staring and cannot easily look away. He notices her gaze and raises an eyebrow, asking what is wrong. She becomes embarrassed and quickly tries to act normal, saying they need to fix the water there. It becomes clear that both of them are starting to feel interested in each other. Meanwhile, when Hyun-jin goes to work, one of the employees asks if she is the same girl whose video was shared in the group, the one causing trouble with her child and the man with her. Hyun-jin denies it and says she is not married and does not have a husband. At that moment, the manager arrives and asks everyone to gather in the meeting room. He begins discussing company matters and asks the employees for their ideas. Hyun-jin hands him her file and he is impressed. He accepts her idea and asks her to come to his office. He signs the file and says he likes the way she prepared the project, then asks if she can complete it alone or if she needs help. She replies that she can handle it by herself. Meanwhile, Tae-hyung and the little child are throwing garbage outside when they see the neighbor. Tae-hyung confronts him and asks if he knows how much danger he put him in. While they are arguing, the neighbor's mother arrives and starts shouting. Tae-hyung tells her that he saw her son smoking cigarettes. The neighbor becomes embarrassed, and the mother says they will deal with the matter once they return home. The neighbor angrily shouts at Tae-hyung, but Tae-hyung says he caused him to lose 1,000,000 won. When the mother hears about the money, she becomes shocked. While they are still talking, Hyun-jin arrives. The neighbor asks if the two of them are married, and Tae-hyung quickly tries to silence him. The mother then invites them to come eat dinner at their house that day, but both Tae-hyung and Hyun-jin refuse and say goodbye. When Hyun-jin gets home, her manager calls her and asks her to send the files if she has finished them. She starts looking for them, but suddenly the child begins crying and she becomes nervous. The manager asks if she is outside, but she says she is at home and that the TV volume is just loud. She tells him she will send everything soon, and he agrees. Tae-hyung asks why she is so afraid of the man she works with. She explains that he gave her a chance at the job, and that she must take advantage of it and respect him. Suddenly, she grabs Tae-hyung's hand and begs him to hold the child for a while until she finishes the project. He agrees reluctantly. She begins working intensely, and Tae-hyung even brings her coffee. Later that night when he wakes up, he sees that she is still awake working. He tells her to sleep, and when she finally falls asleep, he quietly covers her with a blanket. In the morning, Tae-hyung starts cleaning the house. He sees her photo along with work papers and comments that she looks beautiful. As he continues cleaning, he notices that it is raining. He remembers how she said she loved rainy days. Then he notices a small star decoration and remembers the story she told him one night about why she loves stars. She said that she and her sister used to live together in a small apartment where rainwater would leak through the ceiling. Her sister would place star stickers on the spots where the water leaked. That night, she also said she regretted the last conversation she had with her sister. She said her sister always cooked delicious food for her and that she would never see her again. She had been very sad that night and Tae-hyung had tried to comfort her. Later, Tae-hyung prepares the food she likes while she is at work and also feeds the child dinner. He calls Hyun-jin and she tells him she will be a little late. He says he cooked dinner and asks her to come quickly. She tells him she will call him again shortly. Tae-hyung waits for her so they can have dinner together, but she does not arrive. Meanwhile, Hyun-jin is still working late while it rains outside. Later, Tae-hyung takes the child to the neighbors and asks them to watch him for a while because he is going to bring the child's aunt home through the rain. The neighbors agree. Tae-hyung then waits at the bus stop for Hyun-jin while heavy rain falls. Just as he is about to leave, he sees Hyun-jin getting out of a car while a man holds an umbrella over her to protect her from the rain. Tae-hyung is shocked and feels disappointed. It is her manager. The manager gives her his umbrella and leaves. Hyun-jin then sees Tae-hyung standing there with two umbrellas, clearly waiting for her, but he silently walks away. When he gets home, he is very angry. She tries to explain that the man was her manager, but Tae-hyung angrily goes into his room. She then notices the dinner he prepared for her. He tells her that he hates waiting for people. She quietly eats the meal he made, which reminds her of the delicious food her sister used to cook. Meanwhile, Amy is being interviewed about her latest photographs. She says that a man named Tae-hyung helped her. Hyun-jin learns about this interview and congratulates Tae-hyung when she returns home. Later, Amy calls Tae-hyung and tells him to bring his cameras and come see her the next day. However, Tae-hyung says he no longer wants to work in photography. Hyun-jin begins encouraging him to return to his old profession and succeed again. He replies that he left that life a long time ago and does not want to go back, and that he even threw away his cameras years ago. Hyun-jin gently comforts him. That night, he keeps thinking about her words. Eventually, he calls her and tells her that he has decided to accept the job. She becomes very happy and says she will come home quickly and keep her promise. That night, she works very hard, and after finishing, she sends Tae-hyung a message saying she is on her way. However, her manager suddenly asks her to finish another urgent task. She calls Tae-hyung and apologizes, explaining that she will be late because of the extra work. Meanwhile, Tae-hyung takes the child with him to the photo shoot. When Amy sees the little boy, she comments on how cute he is. Tae-hyung explains that he could not find anyone to watch him. Amy says he has inspired her in many ways and that he is a good person. Tae-hyung takes out his camera, but Amy is surprised by how small it is. He explains that he threw away his original cameras 3 years ago and stopped being a photographer. She assigns him a task. Tae-hyung begins taking photos while holding the child, but the child keeps bothering him and does not want to be photographed. Tae-hyung continues working, but the child suddenly falls and gets hurt. Tae-hyung rushes him to the hospital, but the staff ask for the child's parents. He calls Hyun-jin, but she left her phone in the car and does not answer. When Hyun-jin finishes work and gets into the car, she sees many missed calls from Tae-hyung. When she calls him back, he shouts and tells her that the child is in the hospital. She becomes terrified and runs to the hospital. When she arrives, she sees that the child is still unconscious and lying in bed. Hyun-jin apologizes to Tae-hyung for what happened, but he angrily tells her that she cannot handle any responsibility. They argue loudly until they finally speak to the doctor. The doctor tells them that the child's condition is improving, but says they must take care of him both physically and emotionally because he might be feeling stress and needs special care. They bring the child back home. Hyun-jin begins taking care of him carefully and apologizes for not being home the previous day. She gives him a drink. Meanwhile, Tae-hyung buys food for both the child and Hyun-jin. As he walks home, he notices how dirty his clothes are. When he arrives home with the food, the manager suddenly rings the doorbell. When Hyun-jin sees him, she becomes extremely shocked. Hyunjin's workplace manager informs her that he actually owns the house she is living in. Hearing this makes Hyunjin extremely nervous. Panicking, she quickly hides Taehyung and the little child, rushing to gather everything before her manager enters the house. When the manager finally walks in, he looks around suspiciously and asks whether she lives there alone. Trying to stay calm, Hyunjin lies and tells him that she is the only one living in the house. But suddenly, the little boy comes out of hiding, trying to grab his toy. Everyone freezes in shock. Taehyung hurriedly moves to catch the child, but he slips and falls to the ground. At that exact moment, Taehyung and the manager come face to face, discovering each other's presence. Embarrassed and desperate to explain, Hyunjin asks her manager to step outside so she can clarify everything. They leave together and sit at a nearby restaurant where Hyunjin finally explains the truth and apologizes sincerely for lying to him. Surprisingly, the manager reassures her that it is not a problem. After returning home, Hyunjin apologizes to Taehyung for what happened. However, Taehyung reacts angrily and raises his voice at her. She tries to explain herself, but their argument only grows worse, and eventually Taehyung storms off to his room. The next day, still furious, Taehyung visits his friend. While he is there, Amy sends him a message telling him to come immediately and finish his work. Meanwhile, as Hyunjin heads to work, she notices her manager nearby and quickly tries to avoid him. Just then, another employee approaches her and informs her about an upcoming meeting. During the meeting, the manager discusses plans to develop the company further and addresses several important matters. After it ends, he personally tells Hyunjin to continue her excellent work, praising her dedication and effort. On the other side, Taehyung meets Amy, who shows him photographs he had taken of the little boy. She tells him how much she likes them, which makes Taehyung genuinely happy. Then she shows him a photo of Hyunjin and asks if she is his wife. He quickly denies it. Amy then hands him a new project and instructs him to complete it as soon as possible. Later, Hyunjin is seen walking home when she meets a close friend. The friend mentions that the weather is beautiful and says she plans to take the children outside to play. Hyunjin suddenly remembers the doctor's advice that the little boy should occasionally spend time outdoors. When she arrives home, she prepares the child's belongings and asks Taehyung to take the boy outside. Taehyung agrees, and they soon arrive at a playground. Together, they set up a small tent, eventually growing tired and resting nearby while watching Woo-ju happily playing with other children. The sight fills them with quiet joy. A young girl then approaches Taehyung and asks him to take pictures for her. He begins capturing beautiful photos, not only of the girl but also of the little boy and Hyunjin. For a brief moment, they share warm and peaceful happiness together. Soon after, Taehyung notices Hyunjin's phone ringing. It is her manager calling. He intends to bring the phone to her, but before doing so, he overhears Hyunjin talking to her friend. She says that there is no relationship between her and that man and that he will soon leave the house, after which she alone will raise Woo-ju. Hearing this deeply angers Taehyung. Hurt and upset, he quietly leaves the place. Later, Hyunjin, her friend, and the children continue eating together, only realizing that Taehyung has disappeared. Worried, she goes searching for him while carrying some meat for him to eat. But when she finds him and offers it, Taehyung knocks the food from her hand. Frustrated and hurt, Hyunjin becomes angry and walks away. As she walks alone down the street, talking to herself, her manager calls again, asking her to send an important file. While searching for a quiet place to talk without noise, Hyunjin unknowingly loses her way and becomes lost while still on the call. On the other side, while Taehyung is holding the little boy, a woman approaches him and informs him that Hyunjin has not returned yet. Instantly worried, Taehyung begins searching for her, calling out her name anxiously. Soon, he hears her faint voice and rushes toward the sound. To his shock, he finds Hyunjin collapsed in a deserted area. Without hesitation, he runs to her rescue just as heavy rain suddenly begins to pour. As the rain intensifies, Taehyung carefully tends to her injuries. The two of them look at each other gently, their eyes filled with concern and warmth. He insists that she must go to the hospital, but Hyunjin reassures him that she is fine. In that quiet moment, they reconcile and forgive each other for their earlier misunderstandings. Grateful, Hyunjin thanks him for saving her life. Then she asks why he seems to hate the rain so much. Taehyung slowly reveals that his older brother once left him alone in the rain and never returned, leaving behind painful memories that still haunt him. He then tells her that unlike him, she seems to love the rain, just like her sister, who used to come to see her whenever it rained. As they prepare to leave, Hyunjin softly tells him, "If it ever rains on you again, call me. I'll become your umbrella." Touched by her words, Taehyung carries her on his back, and together they return to pick up the little boy before finally heading home. While walking along the road, they suddenly encounter Hyunjin's manager. He explains that he had been worried because her phone was turned off. Hyunjin tells him that she got lost and suffered a minor injury. She then asks Taehyung to go inside first so she can speak privately with her manager. From upstairs, Taehyung watches as Hyunjin talks with the manager. Soon after, she gets into his car and he drives her to the hospital for treatment. After she is discharged, the manager invites her to have lunch with him the next day. She agrees, but explains that she must bring the little boy along. The manager warmly responds that the child is welcome too. Later, when Hyunjin returns home, she informs Taehyung about the lunch invitation for herself and the child. Taehyung agrees, even though he is coughing and clearly unwell. Concerned, Hyunjin urges him to visit the hospital, but he insists it is nothing serious and that he will recover soon. Still worried about his condition, she leaves with the child. Outside, the manager is already waiting. He gives the little boy a beautiful toy, making him happy. As they prepare to leave, Hyunjin is surprised to see a child's seat already installed in the car. When she asks when he bought it, the manager casually replies that he got it from someone. Explains that he knows the restaurant's chefs, and informed them that he would be bringing a small child, so they prepared everything accordingly. As they eat, the manager notices how gently Hyunjin feeds the little boy. Smiling, he tells her that she is incredibly kind and expresses his wish for them to grow closer again and rebuild their relationship. His words make Hyunjin feel shy and uneasy. Meanwhile, Taehyung eats alone at home, waiting for Hyunjin and the child to return. Scrolling through his phone, he looks at photos of Hyunjin, drifting into memories of their time together. Eventually, exhausted and in pain, he falls asleep. Hyunjin calls him later, but he does not answer. After finishing lunch, Hyunjin politely says goodbye to her manager and heads home. Back at the house, Taehyung's condition worsens. He realizes that ever since childhood, whenever he was caught in the rain, he would fall seriously ill, because the rain always reminded him of the loneliness he felt when he was young. When he finally wakes up, he finds Hyunjin asleep in a corner of the room, clearly exhausted after staying beside him the entire night. As she wakes, she immediately asks about his condition. Taehyung looks at her and says softly, "You know I hate waiting. Why did you come back so late?" She apologizes sincerely. After a quiet pause, Taehyung finally confesses his feelings, telling her that he likes her and does not want her to leave his side. Just as Taehyung confesses his love to her, a knock suddenly sounds at the door. Without giving him any response, Hyunjin quickly goes to open it. Standing outside is their neighbor, who has come to deliver some items. The man casually steps inside while saying, "I'll heard you two are a couple, and now living like a family." Embarrassed and overwhelmed, Hyunjin immediately leaves the house, unable to face Taehyung after his confession. The next morning, when Taehyung wakes up, he finds Hyunjin asleep outside in the yard without even covering herself with a blanket. Quietly, he places a blanket over her shoulders. As he watches her, he remembers how she stayed up all night taking care of him. A little later, he sees her in the kitchen preparing food and tasting it. The moment she notices him watching, she becomes flustered and accidentally burns the food. Out of embarrassment, she rushes off to work without eating breakfast and even forgets to turn off the stove, clearly avoiding him because she feels shy after what happened. While on her way, she recalls his words, "Lao like you." Her heart begins beating rapidly. Soon, a woman from the childcare center calls her, informing her that they can now bring Wooju to the daycare. Meanwhile, Taehyung feeds Wooju breakfast and remembers how Hyunjin left the house without eating. He realizes that she has been avoiding him intentionally. Hyunjin then sends him a message, asking him to take Wooju to daycare. Taehyung gets dressed, prepares the child, and brings him there. At the center, he is asked whether he is the boy's father so he can sign the paperwork. He calmly explains that he is only the child's uncle. After spending a short time playing with the children, he leaves for work, though a feeling of loneliness and emptiness lingers as he walks away. Wanting to inform Hyunjin that Wooju has safely arrived, Taehyung tries to send her the child's photo, but accidentally sends his own picture instead. While checking the message, Hyunjin's friend Seong notices and asks what relationship exists between her and Taehyung. Hyunjin admits that he confessed his feelings the previous night, but insists that nothing exists between them. Seong then asks her who is closer to her, Hart, her manager, or Taehyung. Hyunjin explains that her manager is kind to everyone, but although Taehyung may appear cold and unkind, he has always been there beside her whenever she truly needed support. Still, she says she does not yet know whom her heart chooses. "The only thing in my heart right now," she says softly, "is raising Wooju." Later, Hyunjin leaves a meeting with her manager, who takes her to a cafeteria and orders a strawberry shake, the drink she used to love in the past. She is surprised that he still remembers such details about her. During their conversation, he reveals that he has remained single since their college days until now. Shocked, she asks how someone as kind and handsome as him could still be single. He then asks about Wooju's condition. She reassures him that the child is healthy and mentions that Taehyung may soon leave the house. The manager quickly responds that it might actually be better, admitting he has been uncomfortable knowing another man lives with her. Elsewhere, Amy Chun's personal assistant explains to Taehyung everything he must do for his job, how to behave around Amy Chun, what she likes, and what she dislikes. Taehyung becomes curious about the true relationship between this assistant and Amy Chun before fully immersing himself in his photography work. When Hyunjin finishes work, she picks up Wooju and returns home. Soon after, Taehyung arrives as well. The moment their eyes meet, Hyunjin becomes nervous again, struggling to speak, normally before quickly escaping into the bathroom, once again avoiding him. Confused by her behavior, Taehyung receives a call from the engineer who has been repairing his house. The man informs him that the construction work has finally been completed. However, instead of happiness, Taehyung's expression shows clear disappointment. While the two of them are folding clothes together, Taehyung calmly tells Hyunjin that everything he said the previous night was sincere and came directly from his heart. However, he reassures her that he is not trying to force her into anything and that she does not need to keep avoiding or hiding from him anymore. Later that night, a mysterious figure dressed in dark clothes and wearing a hood approaches Hyunjin's house and attempts to open the door. But the moment the person hears Wooju crying inside, he suddenly turns around and leaves. The next morning, as Hyunjin heads to work, she notices police officers stationed around the neighborhood. Around the same time, Taehyung, returning from dropping Wooju at daycare, also sees them and asks what is happening. The officers explain that a thief has recently appeared in the area, a man known for following women and secretly hiding within the neighborhood. Immediately concerned, Taehyung sends Hyunjin a message warning her about the danger and advises her not to return home late. Afterward, Taehyung visits his own house, which has finally finished construction. However, instead of moving back, he deliberately begins pointing out minor flaws, using them as an excuse to delay moving in, so he can stay longer at Hyunjin's home. Meanwhile, after finishing work, Hyunjin accidentally falls asleep on the bus and misses her stop, forcing her to walk home alone at night. Taehyung calls and offers to pick her up, but she refuses. As she walks alone, she suddenly notices someone following behind her. Panic sets in and she starts running, only for Taehyung to appear in front of her just in time. Relieved, he tells her seriously that if something like this ever happens again, she must promise to call him immediately. He then explains that although his house construction is complete, he discovered several issues and would like to continue staying at her place until they are fixed. Hyunjin agrees. Before leaving, Taehyung hands her a small bottle of pepper spray and teaches her how to defend herself if the thief ever approaches. But while demonstrating, he accidentally sprays himself in the eyes. Shocked, Hyunjin rushes him home and leads him to the bathroom, carefully washing his eyes with plenty of water. After making sure he is all right, she turns to leave but suddenly slips, only for Taehyung to catch her in his arms. Will arrive later that day to discuss a joint project. When the guests finally arrive, everyone is stunned. The visitors are Amy Chu, her assistant, and her photographer, Taehyung. Hyunjin is shocked. The manager also recognizes Taehyung and blurts out in surprise, "My brother-in-law?" The employees begin whispering among themselves, trying to recall where they have seen Taehyung before. Amy Chu casually asks, "Is he your husband?" The room instantly fills with awkward glances. The meeting proceeds, and afterward they decide to have dinner together. While riding the elevator, one employee keeps staring suspiciously at Tae-hyung, suddenly remembering him as the strange man who attended the food exhibition earlier and casually called Hyunjin "babe." The staff become curious and begin asking whether the two are actually in a relationship. Embarrassed, Hyunjin quickly denies it, saying he is only her brother-in-law. The others jokingly question why siblings-in-law would call each other "babe." During dinner, only Hyunjin, the manager, and Tae-hyung remain seated together. The manager begins subtly questioning Tae-hyung about how close he is to Hyunjin. Tae-hyung confidently replies that he and Hyunjin are extremely close, perhaps even closer than the manager himself. Tension rises as the two men exchange jealous remarks, each trying to outdo the other. After dinner, they move to a bowling game, splitting into opposing teams, Tae-hyung versus the manager. Hyunjin joins Tae-hyung's side. In the end, Tae-hyung wins the game. Overwhelmed with joy, he instinctively pulls Hyunjin into an embrace, leaving the manager visibly jealous. By the time they finish, night has fallen. Tae-hyung receives a call informing him that he is urgently needed at the studio. Seizing the opportunity, the manager quickly offers, "Hyunjin, I'll drive you home." Burning with jealousy, Tae-hyung watches silently. Even Amy Chu's secretary notices the tension and remarks knowingly, "You two aren't competing in work, you're competing for Hyunjin's heart." While driving Hyunjin home, the manager stops at a place where beautiful fireworks are being set off and asks her to stay and watch them with him. They sit together quietly as the lights fill the night sky, and both of them drift into memories from 7 years earlier, when he once brought her to watch flowers blooming under the evening lights. Back then, Hyunjin had wanted to tell him something important, but before she could speak, his phone rang. After answering, he suddenly told her, "What I wanted to say is, I'm leaving the city, I'm going abroad to study, and after today we probably won't see each other again." Now, in the present, he looks at her with regret and says softly, "Shouldn't have left you so easily that day. I was afraid you would discover that I was poor while you came from a wealthy family, so I lied to protect my pride." He admits that he had always known about her life, but never revealed his feelings because he feared she would distance herself from him. Afterward, he drives her home and waits outside until she safely enters the house. Just then, Tae-hyung calls to check whether she arrived home safely. As Hyunjin approaches the entrance, she notices that the front door is already open. Confused, she asks Tae-hyung if he left it unlocked. He insists that he clearly locked it before leaving. The moment she steps inside, she finds the house completely ransacked. Suddenly, she notices a shadow moving inside and screams in terror. Her scream is heard both by the manager waiting outside and Tae-hyung, who is still on the phone with her. Hyunjin collapses in fear. At that moment, Yoo-seong rushes in and turns on the lights, confronting the stranger inside. "Who are you? What are you doing in someone else's house at this hour?" he demands. The man explains that he intended to wait outside, but entered after seeing the door open, asking, "Isn't this Sun Woo-jin's house?" Shocked, Hyunjin asks, "How do you know my brother-in-law's name?" Meanwhile, Tae-hyung abandons his work and rushes home, repeatedly calling Hyunjin in panic. The stranger then reveals, "I'm Woo-jin's father." When Tae-hyung finally arrives, he sees Yoo-seong at the door before rushing inside to make sure Hyunjin is safe. Then he notices the man standing there and demands to know who he is. The man runs toward him emotionally and says, "Tae-hyung, you've grown so much." Hyunjin quietly explains, "It's your father." The man breaks down in tears. "I'm sorry, Tae-hyung, I came back too. I ate." Hyunjin escorts Yoo-seong out, and he warns her to stay careful, promising to call the police if anything happens again. Inside, the old man continues pleading with Tae-hyung, but Tae-hyung coldly asks why he has returned after disappearing for so many years. Without listening further, he tells him to leave once he finishes speaking. Elsewhere, Hyunjin brings Woo-ju back from the neighbor's house and explains that someone broke into their home and that the police have already been informed. When she returns, Tae-hyung notices an injury on her hand. Gently, he treats the wound and wraps it carefully with bandages. He apologizes for everything that happened, but Hyunjin reassures him that it is not his fault, especially since he himself is hurting after seeing his father return after such a long time. Tae-hyung admits that the man now feels like a complete stranger to him. He says he no longer feels any attachment and barely even remembers his father's face. He then falls into painful memories from childhood, remembering the day his father stole money from people, leaving young Tae-hyung behind when angry victims caught him while his father escaped alone. The next morning, Tae-hyung meets his father at a restaurant. Furious, he shouts at him never to visit again. His father desperately begs for forgiveness, claiming he has changed and wants to become a good father. He even grabs Tae-hyung's legs in desperation, but Tae-hyung firmly refuses and tells him he never wants to see him again. Meanwhile, at work, Hyunjin's manager announces exciting news. Their company has been selected to lead a massive project. If they succeed, all employees will receive generous financial rewards. At the same time, Tae-hyung, while taking Woo-ju to daycare, suddenly breaks, down in tears. A neighbor notices and kindly offers to take the child instead, allowing Tae-hyung to head to work alone. After finishing work, Hyunjin picks up Woo-ju while Yoo-seong drives them home. Once they arrive, he tells her that he will come inside for a moment. He immediately begins repairing the door that had been broken by the intruder earlier. While Hyunjin tries to take something down from a cabinet, Yoo-seong moves closer to help her. As they reach for it together, they unintentionally draw close, their eyes meeting in an awkward quiet moment. Just then, Tae-hyung walks in and coldly asks the manager, "What are you doing here at this hour?" The manager calmly explains that he was fixing the damaged door lock. Soon, the two men end up finishing the repair together. While working, the manager notices Tae-hyung and Hyunjin playing gently with Woo-ju, taking turns carrying and entertaining the child. A wave of jealousy crosses his face. As he prepares to leave, the manager turns to Tae-hyung and says, "Please let me know if anything ever happens to Hyunjin. I worry about her." Tae-hyung immediately responds, "Worrying about Hyunjin isn't part of your job. That responsibility belongs to me. Stay out of family matters." The manager replies firmly, "Elle can promise to protect Hyunjin whenever she needs it, but can you make the same promise? Your father just returned after all these years. Why was he wandering around the house alone tonight? Until you move back to your own home, make sure Hyunjin doesn't suffer because of your problems." With that, he leaves. Later, Tae-hyung meets his friends and tells one of them that he will now officially start working with him. His friend happily celebrates the news, but another notices Tae-hyung's troubled expression and asks what is wrong. Tae-hyung reveals that his father suddenly returned after many years and wants to re-enter his life after abandoning him. His friend then asks how he feels about living with Hyunjin. Tae-hyung admits that her house has begun to feel like his own home and that the thought of leaving it worries him. Elsewhere, Tae-hyung's father helps several neighborhood women carry heavy groceries. During their conversation, they realize who he is. He explains that Tae-hyung refuses to see him, but says he understands and only wishes to watch over his son from afar. The women advise him that reconnecting with his son before it is too late would be the best choice. At that moment, Hyunjin arrives after picking up Woo-ju from daycare. Tae-hyung's father sits beside her and gently asks the child's name, realizing that Woo-ju is his grandson. He asks to hold him and smiles warmly, saying the boy resembles Woo-jin. He confesses that Tae-hyung has rejected him completely despite his desire to change and make up for past mistakes. Hyunjin reassures him that Tae-hyung simply needs time to think and heal. Soon, the old man begins happily playing with the child. When Hyunjin returns home, she tells Tae-hyung that she met his father and that he seemed to care deeply for Woo-ju. She also mentions that she understands Tae-hyung does not wish to see him again. Tae-hyung becomes upset, angry that she spoke to his father and even allowed Woo-ju near him. Hyunjin tries to explain that he is still his father and that there may have been reasons behind his disappearance, but Tae-hyung's emotions explode. He reveals that 20 years ago, his father abandoned both him and his brother without ever looking back. Even though his brother promised to return someday, he never did. Hyunjin tries to clarify that she did not mean to hurt him, but Tae-hyung interrupts bitterly. "What reason could ever justify abandoning young children? I never talked about this because I thought you were on my side, but I was wrong." With that, he walks into his room, shutting himself away. The next morning at work, Hyunjin and the employees discover shocking news. Another food company has copied their products and even stolen customer data and internal company files. Disturbed, Hyunjin goes to the restroom, where she overhears co-workers gossiping about her. They accuse her of leaking the company's files, claiming she only got her job because the manager supported her since they attended the same college. Hyunjin attempts to defend herself, but one employee coldly responds that she has no proof of her innocence and argues that since she is only a temporary worker who will leave the company in a few months, she had every reason to betray them. Hyunjin stands there, stunned and hurt by the accusations. Unable to bear the accusations any longer, Hyunjin steps outside the company building and breaks down in tears. The rumors have spread everywhere. Even the workplace group chats are filled with people blaming her. While she is crying alone, the manager approaches her gently and tells her not to hide her pain from him. He reassures her that she can lean on him whenever she feels overwhelmed and that he wants to be the shoulder she can cry on. Around the same time, Tae-hyung arrives at BS Food for the joint project they are working on. As he walks in, he overhears employees gossiping and accusing Hyunjin. When he finally sees her, he apologizes for the harsh words he said the previous night. But before they can talk further, the manager notices them together and calls Hyunjin away, leaving Tae-hyung standing there. Soon, the global market project meeting begins. One of the senior executives asks who has been appointed to lead the project planning. Hyunjin confidently states that she is responsible. However, the executive questions the decision, suggesting that another employee should have been chosen instead since he studied abroad and speaks foreign languages fluently. The manager immediately defends Hyunjin and proposes that both employees be evaluated through direct competition so their performance can determine who truly deserves the role. The executive agrees to the challenge. Meanwhile, Tae-hyung's father is seen wandering around the neighborhood chatting with local residents. When Tae-hyung unexpectedly passes by, he deliberately ignores his father and walks away without acknowledgement. Later that evening, after work, Yoo-seong drives Hyunjin home. Tae-hyung repeatedly tries calling her, but she does not answer. When they arrive in the neighborhood, Hyunjin asks the manager not to help her anymore this time. She explains that she wants to prove her abilities on her own and show everyone that she is capable without relying on him. He respects her decision. At that moment, Tae-hyung approaches the car, explaining that he was worried because she returned late. He thanks the manager for bringing her home safely, but the manager replies that gratitude is unnecessary. Then, turning directly to Hyunjin, he calmly says, "Once this project is finished, let's go on a date." With that, he leaves. After returning home, Tae-hyung asks Hyunjin whether she has feelings for Yoo-seong and whether she has begun forgetting him, even though he has always been by her side. Before she can respond, Woo-ju starts crying, giving her an excuse to walk away. Though the question continues to trouble her mind, Hyunjin focuses entirely on winning the competition and proving her dedication at work. One night, she works so late that she falls asleep at the office. Yoo-seong, who is still there, notices and offers to drive her home safely. The next morning, Tae-hyung prepares breakfast for her. As they eat together, he asks what has been bothering her lately. Hyunjin explains how co-workers falsely accused her of leaking company files despite her innocence. Tae-hyung becomes upset on her behalf. He then suggests that she accompany him to work that day, where he will be conducting a photo shoot with foreign clients. He encourages her to use the opportunity to test her food ideas and gather honest feedback from international guests. She agrees, but they struggle to find someone to watch Woo-ju. They contact several acquaintances, but everyone is busy. Hyunjin proposes bringing Woo-ju along, or else she will stay home instead. Just then, their neighbor calls and mentions he will be away from the neighborhood, suggesting they leave Woo-ju with his grandfather. After some hesitation, they decide to leave Woo-ju with Tae-hyung's father. They then head to the exhibition and photo shoot venue. Tae-hyung begins photographing foreign participants while Hyunjin prepares free food samples, inviting attendees to taste her cooking. She interviews them afterward, asking for their opinions, and they enthusiastically praise her dishes. By the time they finish, night has fallen and rain suddenly begins to pour. Laughing freely, Tae-hyung and Hyunjin run through the rain together like children, playing without worry. Eventually, they sit down to wait for the rain to stop. In a quiet moment, Tae-hyung suddenly takes her hand. Feeling shy, Hyunjin asks why he seems happy in the rain when he once hated it so much. He smiles softly and replies that he has come to love the rain because of her. He promises that he will always remain by her side. Moved, Hyunjin promises that she too will always stand beside him. Looking at her warmly, Tae-hyung says, "From today onward, I think I finally like the rain." Soon, the long-awaited day of the competition arrives, the day Hyun-jin and the representative from the opposing team must prove their abilities. One by one, they step forward to present their work before a panel and a large audience. The competing employee presents his project first, confidently showcasing his ideas and achievements. Then it is Hyun-jin's turn. She walks onto the stage with calm determination and begins presenting the proposal she carefully prepared. As she continues, she reveals the interviews she conducted with foreign participants during the exhibition, showing video clips of international guests praising her food and expressing genuine admiration for its taste and quality. The audience is deeply impressed, and the atmosphere fills with excitement and approval. In the end, Hyun-jin's team is officially selected to represent the company and introduce their cuisine to the global market. Overwhelmed with happiness, Hyun-jin immediately shares the good news with Tae-hyung. He becomes incredibly proud and excited for her success. Wanting to celebrate properly, he heads to a supermarket and buys a cake along with candles to surprise her. We then see Hyun-jin walking home, overflowing with happiness after achieving her long-awaited success. From a distance, her manager notices the rain beginning to fall and suddenly appears beside her, shielding her with an umbrella. Surprised, Hyun-jin looks at him in confusion. He gently tells her that he has waited a very long time for this moment. Gathering his courage, he finally confesses that he loves her and asks if she would be willing to go on dates with him. Blushing shyly, Hyun-jin hesitates, but eventually agrees. Meanwhile, Tae-hyung waits at home, excited to celebrate her victory. He carefully prepares a beautiful cake, hoping to surprise her when she returns. But when he calls, Hyun-jin tells him that she will be having dinner with her co-workers and will come home late. At that moment, Tae-hyung remembers the manager asking her out earlier. Realization dawns on him, and disappointment quietly fills his heart. Elsewhere, Hyun-jin and her manager spend a peaceful evening together in a warm and romantic atmosphere. He sincerely tells her how deeply he cares for her and admits that he has waited for her for many years. Then he makes a heartfelt request. "Just give me 3 chances. I'll prove that. I deserve to be part of your life." He tells her she does not need to answer immediately and can take time to think about it. Hyun-jin agrees to consider his proposal. Later, he drives her home and says goodbye. When she enters the house, she finds Tae-hyung and the little boy already asleep. The next morning at work, both Hyun-jin and her manager feel too shy to even look directly at each other. Later, Hyun-jin confides in her friend, revealing that her manager confessed his feelings to her. "I don't know who to choose," she admits. "The one who lives with me at home, or the one I see every day at work. Both of them give me kindness and love." Her friend reassures her gently, telling her not to worry, because in the end her heart will naturally choose the right person. That evening, when Hyun-jin returns home, she notices the cake and asks Tae-hyung who it was prepared for. He quietly tells her that it was meant for her, to celebrate her success, but she never came home the previous night. After returning from work to pick up Woo-ju from the neighbor's house, Tae-hyung sees his father playing happily with the child. Both of them look joyful together. As Tae-hyung prepares to take Woo-ju home, his father hands him a drink and advises him to give it to the child regularly so he can grow strong. It becomes clear that the old man is making genuine efforts to grow closer to Tae-hyung again. Back home, Tae-hyung gives the drink to Woo-ju. Later, a woman from an insurance company visits Hyun-jin and Tae-hyung. She informs them that compensation money, 100 million won from the death of Hyun-jin's siblings, is ready to be claimed, but they must first complete official paperwork. The news overwhelms Hyun-jin. Memories resurface and grief consumes her. Alone in her room, she begins crying while looking at photographs of her late sister, her sorrow growing heavier with every memory. Seeing her pain, Tae-hyung approaches quietly and gently tries to comfort her, doing his best to calm her broken heart. The following day, Hyun-jin goes to work as usual. After finishing her duties, her manager offers to take her somewhere special. He drives her to a beautiful location where they spend time together, taking photos and enjoying the peaceful atmosphere. Later, they sit down to eat together. Curious, Hyun-jin asks him why he chose to work in the food industry. He smiles and explains that food often leaves unforgettable memories in people's hearts. For him, creating delicious meals that people remember fondly brings true happiness. Their conversation continues warmly, filled with laughter and lighthearted teasing. Soon after, Hyun-jin receives wonderful news from her friend. The company has officially granted her a permanent position. After her success in the project, her friend excitedly suggests going out to celebrate, but Hyun-jin initially refuses. At that moment, Tae-hyung arrives. When he hears the news, he becomes genuinely happy for her, and together they all go out for drinks to celebrate. Everyone congratulates Hyun-jin warmly, but their celebration is suddenly interrupted by a phone call informing them that the little boy has fallen ill. Panic sets in, and they rush home immediately. Meanwhile, the child is suffering from a severe allergic reaction. When Tae-hyung's father arrives, he quickly asks whether the boy was given strawberries, explaining that Tae-hyung himself had the same allergy as a child. Hyun-jin and Tae-hyung hurry the child home and carefully watch over him until his condition stabilizes. Before leaving, the grandfather prepares to go, and they sincerely thank him for always helping care for the child. The next day, Hyun-jin takes Woo-ju to the doctor, who strictly warns her never to give the child strawberries again. On her way back, she meets the grandfather and reassures him that Woo-ju is now fine. He feels relieved and happy. He then makes an unexpected request, asking Hyun-jin to invite him for dinner at their home so he can resolve the tension between himself and Tae-hyung. She agrees. When she returns home, Hyun-jin tries to persuade Tae-hyung to invite his father for dinner. At first, he firmly refuses, but after persistent encouragement, he finally agrees. That evening, they invite the grandfather over, and the three of them share dinner together. Afterward, Hyun-jin takes the child away to give them privacy. Although Tae-hyung still harbors anger, his father sincerely explains the reasons behind abandoning him years ago. Tae-hyung does not fully forgive him, but the tension softens. The father promises that whenever they are away, he will look after the child himself and asks them not to leave Woo-ju with neighbors anymore. Tae-hyung finally agrees and even gives him the house password, telling him he can visit anytime. Elsewhere, Hyun-jin visits the insurance office, where an employee informs her that a man claiming to be a family member recently came asking for the insurance compensation money to be released quickly. Confused, Hyun-jin wonders who that person could be. Later, when she returns home, she finds the grandfather there with Woo-ju. As they prepare to enter the house, he casually asks her to bring him some water. While preparing it, Hyun-jin notices him quietly looking around the house as if inspecting everything. A faint sense of suspicion begins to grow inside her, but before she can question him, Tae-hyung arrives and she lets the thought go. The following day reveals a shocking truth. The grandfather is seen secretly talking on the phone, telling someone that he will soon obtain a large amount of money and that they will finally be able to live comfortably. While Tae-hyung and Hyun-jin are away at work, he sneaks into the house and begins stealing jewelry and valuable belongings. But suddenly, Hyun-jin returns home earlier than expected, thinking she may have left the electricity on. As she steps inside, she hears strange noises coming from within the house, slowly opening the room door. She is horrified to find the grandfather inside, and in that terrifying moment, he lunges toward her, attempting to kill her. Hyun-jin angrily shouted at the old man and demanded, "So this was the reason you came to us? To steal from us?" The old man coldly replied that he had only come to claim the insurance money of his son. The two of them began shouting at each other fiercely. Hyun-jin, filled with disappointment, said she had always believed he was a kind grandfather, but now she realized he was nothing but a deceiver. Their argument quickly turned into a physical struggle. In the chaos, the old man suddenly threw something toward Hyun-jin. Fortunately, Tae-hyung rushed in at that exact moment and saved her. However, Hyun-jin's hand was injured during the incident. Soon after, Tae-hyun took his father to the police station. Even there, his father stubbornly continued insisting that he deserved the insurance money. Hearing this made Tae-hyun even angrier. Unable to tolerate the situation any longer, he left the station in frustration. Just then, he received a phone call from a man who told him that he had once worked together with Tae-hyun's older brother at the police station and that he had something important to tell him. Meanwhile, Hyun-jin was at the hospital receiving treatment for her injured hand. The doctor reassured her that the injury would heal in a few days. At the same time, Hyun-jin's manager was informed that she would not be able to come to work and had requested a day off. The man who had called Tae-hyun then met him and explained that he had worked with Tae-hyun's older brother at the police station. He revealed that Tae-hyun's brother had chosen to become a police officer because of their father. Their father had been a thief and had constantly beaten his sons. He also explained why Tae-hyun's older brother had left home when he was still young. He wanted to protect Tae-hyun from their father's violence and shouting. Then the man showed Tae-hyun several photographs of his brother, showing how brutally he had been beaten in the past. When Tae-hyun saw the photos, he was overwhelmed with sorrow. He returned home and began looking through old photos of himself with his brother. A deep sense of guilt consumed him, and he broke down in tears. "I'm sorry, my brother," he whispered repeatedly. At that moment, Hyun-jin arrived and asked what had happened, but Tae-hyun simply told her he was going outside and that she should go to sleep. Then he left. Later, Tae-hyun met his friend and confessed something painful. Before his brother's accident, his brother had sent him a message warning him about their father, but Tae-hyun had ignored it and never replied. "My whole life," Tae-hyun said bitterly, "I wished my brother would have a miserable life, even on the day of his wedding. But now I finally understand everything, and it's too late for me to do anything." His friend tried to calm him and comfort him. That same night, Hyun-jin stayed home alone with the little child while heavy rain poured outside. The next morning at work, Hyun-jin's co-workers surprised her with congratulations. She had officially secured a permanent position. They celebrated together happily, but her manager soon noticed the injury on her hand. Embarrassed, she explained to her friends what had happened. "I'm worried about Tae-hyun," she admitted. "I was the one who encouraged him to speak to his father, but his father turned out to be a traitor." Her friend advised her to sit down with Tae-hyun and talk calmly about everything. Meanwhile, the manager secretly approached Hyun-jin's friend and asked about Hyun-jin's condition. The friend pretended she knew nothing, but the manager simply said he was worried about her. Later that evening, Hyun-jin returned home and tried to talk with Tae-hyun. She apologized and said, "We are a family. Families support and protect each other." But Tae-hyun immediately rejected her words. "I don't want to hear the word family anymore," he said bitterly. "The people who hurt me the most in my life were my own family." Then he went to his room deep in thought. At that moment, Hyun-jin's manager called him. The next morning, Hyun-jin tried to feed the little boy, but he refused to eat. He said he missed his uncle. Then Hyun-jin's manager called and said he was standing outside the house. When she opened the door, he entered carrying toys for the child. He asked if she had eaten yet. When she admitted she hadn't, he quietly went to the kitchen and began cooking for her. Soon he brought her the meal. Hyun-jin was surprised at how neatly he had prepared everything. Afterward, the two of them took the little boy outside, spending a pleasant time together. "You really love children," Hyun-jin said. The manager explained that he had been adopted by another family when he was young, and ever since then, he had always loved taking care of children. Hyun-jin was surprised. She had never known that about him. Then he said something serious. "I promise you and Woo-ju that I will protect you and be your shelter, if you allow me." Meanwhile, Tae-hyun went to visit his father in prison, but he remembered the manager's warning that Hyun-jin had been hurt because of him and that he should stay away from her. Overcome with anger, Tae-hyun shouted at his father, "You already ruined my brother's life, and now you've ruined mine too. I never want to see you again. Stay away from Woo-ju and Hyun-jin." Then he left. Afterward, he visited the memorial place of his brother and apologized tearfully for everything. Later, he returned home with the little boy and told Hyun-jin that he was moving out of the house. Hyun-jin was shocked and could hardly believe it. Tae-hyun explained that he would move into a new house he had recently renovated. "I'm sorry for hiding it from you," he said. Hyun-jin begged him to stay and said they should raise the child together as a family, but Tae-hyun refused. "I don't want you to suffer because of me anymore." Then he left. The following day at work, Amy's husband tried to talk to her and asked for another chance, but Amy firmly rejected him. "Tae-hyun understands the job perfectly now," she said coldly. "I don't want to see you anymore. It's over between us. Take your things and leave." Meanwhile, Hyun-jin was driving with some co-workers and her manager to present food products at an event. Because the journey was long, most of the employees fell asleep in the car. The manager gave Hyun-jin candy so she wouldn't feel tired. One of the workers noticed and became curious about what was happening between them. When they arrived, Tae-hyun happened to be there taking photographs. From a distance, he saw Hyun-jin and the manager laughing happily together. He continued taking photos, pretending not to notice. Suddenly, a large metal beam began to fall toward Hyunjin. Both Taehyun and the manager rushed to save her. In the process, the manager was injured. "Why did you risk your life like that?" Hyunjin asked him in shock. "It's nothing," he replied calmly. Meanwhile, Taehyung overheard some workers whispering that the manager clearly loved Hyunjin, and that was why he had saved her and always protected her. Feeling heartbroken, Taehyung quietly left. He later met his friend and confessed, "I love her, but she already has someone who loves her even more." His friend tried to encourage him. Meanwhile, Hyunjin picked up the little boy from the neighbors. When she returned home, she found a small envelope announcing that Wooju's kindergarten would have a performance the next day. She felt a little sad. The next day, she took Wooju to the event alone. She saw other children happily accompanied by their parents, while she and Wooju stood there alone. She tried to play with him and cheer him up, but Wooju suddenly ran away from her. As Hyunjin ran after Wooju, she suddenly noticed the manager arriving at the event. He had even brought flowers for Wooju. Soon afterward, they all went inside the hall together. While Hyunjin and the manager were sitting side by side, Taehyung also arrived at the event carrying flowers. But the moment he saw them sitting happily together, he quietly placed the flowers aside and left without saying a word. The children's performance soon began, and Wooju participated on stage along with the other kids. Meanwhile, Yoon-seong took photos of Wooju and his aunt. Suddenly, Wooju looked at Hyunjin and said, "I love you, aunt." Elsewhere, Taehyung returned to his photography work, but his mind kept replaying the scene of Hyunjin and the manager sitting together and smiling happily. At the same time, Amy Chu's husband, who had also been her secretary, arrived in tears. He confessed that he had signed the divorce papers and now felt completely heartbroken. After the event ended, Hyunjin and the others left and went to a cafe. Hyunjin thanked Yoon-seong for standing beside her during the event. Meanwhile, the secretary began packing up his belongings. Because he had spent so many years working in the studio, he had accumulated a lot of personal items. Taehyung tried to convince him to stay, but the man replied sadly that Amy Chu no longer loved him and did not need him by her side anymore, even though they had spent 20 years together. He said goodbye and prepared to leave for the airport. Before departing, however, he went to see Amy Chu one last time. He told her he had signed the divorce papers, but he noticed she didn't even seem sad. He confessed that he felt deeply hurt leaving both her and the studio behind and had come only to say goodbye for the final time. Then he asked her quietly if she could truly live without him. Amy Chu gave no answer. The man turned around and left. Meanwhile, Hyunjin's neighbor, the elderly woman who usually helped with Wooju, was suffering from severe back pain and had not yet picked up Wooju from kindergarten. Instead, Taehyung came to pick him up because he missed the child so much. He took Wooju to the market and bought him toys from a children's shop. Then he brought him home and spent time happily playing with him. Later, the neighbor called Hyunjin and explained she couldn't bring Wooju home that day. Hyunjin immediately called Taehyung and asked him to bring Wooju instead. After he left, Hyunjin entered Taehyung's old room and noticed that he had left behind the lamp he loved so much. Meanwhile, when Taehyung returned home, he suddenly began to miss Wooju terribly. The next morning, as Hyunjin was taking Wooju to kindergarten, the manager arrived and offered them a ride in his car. On the way, he told her that from now on, he would help her take Wooju to school whenever she needed. When they arrived at work, they received exciting news. The company's newest product had completely sold out within 2 hours. Everyone was thrilled. Meanwhile, Amy Chu hired a new employee to replace her former secretary. The man soon realized that his job seemed less about working for the studio and more about taking care of Amy Chu personally. Later, Taehyung visited Amy Chu and told her that he would soon start working with BS Food Company. He also mentioned that her ex-husband was leaving for the United States that very evening. Amy Chu pretended she didn't care, but as she walked through her house later, memories of him and the time they spent together filled her mind. Soon afterward, Taehyung arrived at BS Food Company for an interview. Hyunjin, Yoon-seong, and Taehyung were all interviewed together because they had collaborated on the company's latest product. However, it was clear that Hyunjin and Taehyung were avoiding each other completely. They didn't even greet one another. During his interview, Taehyung mentioned something Hyunjin had once told him, a piece of advice that had inspired him to continue pursuing photography. Later, after work, Taehyung picked up Woo-ju and brought him to the neighbor's house. Then he entered the house he used to live in with Hyun-jin. He noticed that the place was messy and realized that Hyun-jin must have been overwhelmed with work and unable to keep everything organized by herself. Quietly, he cleaned the house and left. When Hyun-jin returned home, she was surprised to find everything perfectly tidy. She also found a note on the table where Taehyung had written that he had cooked food for her. Seeing this made her emotional, and she remembered the many meals they had once shared together. Meanwhile, at his own home, Taehyung was eating alone when memories of eating with Hyun-jin suddenly flooded his mind, filling him with sadness. The next morning, Taehyung went shopping with his friends to buy clothes. But instead of buying clothes for himself, he wandered into the children's section and bought clothes for Woo-ju. Since it was the weekend, Hyun-jin also took Woo-ju to a restaurant where she met her friend. She told her friend that she and Taehyung were no longer living together. While they were talking, Yoon-seong sent her a message saying they would go on another date the next day. Hyun-jin admitted that she felt grateful to Yoon-seong, but still felt troubled inside. Her friend told her honestly that if she truly loved him, it would have meant much more, but it was clear she didn't. Meanwhile, Taehyung's friends visited his house and were shocked to see that it was filled with children's toys and items, and that Taehyung had only bought children's clothes while shopping. They teased him about his sudden change in behavior. During their conversation about Amy Chu and her ex-husband, one friend asked Taehyung a question that struck deeply. If he really loved her, why did he leave instead of fighting for her love? Those words stayed in Taehyung's mind. Meanwhile, Amy Chu sat alone in her office thinking about the man who was about to leave for America. Even though it was the weekend, Taehyung and a worker from BS Food came to the office to handle some work. During this time, Taehyung received a call asking what time the secretary's flight to the United States would depart. Meanwhile, Hyun-jin and Yoon-seong went on their date. They visited an orphanage where Yoon-seong gave gifts to the children and ordered food for them, making them very happy. At the same time, when Taehyung arrived at Amy Chu's office, he found her unconscious and drunk. She confessed that she missed Moo-seong. Taehyung asked her, "If you miss him so much, why did you let him go?" Amy Chu replied sadly that she had never treated him well and therefore had no right to stop him from leaving. Meanwhile, at the orphanage, Hyun-jin noticed a young girl sitting alone. She learned that the girl was new there and was still waiting for her mother to come back for her. This reminded Hyun-jin of Taehyung, and she suddenly realized how lonely he must have felt as a child. Returning to the dining table, she began thinking about the words Taehyung had spoken during the interview. At that moment, a co-worker called her from Amy Chu's office and told her shocking news. Taehyung was leaving for the United States that night. Meanwhile, Amy Chu confessed to Taehyung that she regretted letting Moo-seong go and advised him not to make the same mistake. Immediately after hearing this, Taehyung drove off quickly. Meanwhile, Hyun-jin sat alone feeling heartbroken when Yoon-seong approached her. Suddenly, it began to rain, reminding her of the time she and Taehyung had once stood together in the rain. Overcome with emotion, she told Yoon-seong she had to leave immediately. She rushed to the airport, desperately searching for Taehyung while crying and repeatedly calling his phone. At the same time, Taehyung was also trying to call her and sending messages. Finally, she found him. Through tears, she said, "Please don't leave me. While you were gone, I felt so lonely. I love you." Taehyung looked confused because she had misunderstood, but she continued saying, "When we stood together in the rain, I felt like I could do anything when I'm with you, because I love you." As Taehyung tried to speak, she suddenly kissed him to silence him. "Didn't I tell you not to speak?" she whispered. Finally, Taehyung smiled and said gently that he wasn't going anywhere and that he would never leave without her. Meanwhile, Amy Chu finally caught up with the man who was about to leave. Standing in front of him at the airport, she said softly, "Don't go." The man was stunned. He could hardly believe that Amy Chu, the woman known for her cold and unyielding personality, had come all the way to the airport just to ask him to stay. At that moment, they both noticed Taehyung and Hyun-jin nearby, kissing each other. The sight surprised them both, and Amy Chu's husband couldn't help but laugh as he walked toward them. Later, Hyun-jin and Taehyung returned home together. Sitting quietly side by side, Taehyung confessed that while he was away, he had missed both her and Woo-ju deeply. Whenever he returned to his empty house alone, he felt overwhelming loneliness. "I realized I can't live without the two of you. he told her sincerely. Hyunjin then cooked noodles for him. As they ate together, Taehyung kept watching her while she enjoyed the food. "Every time I look at your face," he said softly, "I feel happy." They held hands while eating, sharing a warm and peaceful moment. The next morning, when Hyunjin arrived at work, she apologized to Yoon Seong for leaving so suddenly the day before without any explanation. She explained honestly that she now loved someone else and that the feelings she once had for him belonged only to the past. Yoon Seong had already guessed the truth, that she loved Taehyung. He smiled gently and told her he wasn't upset and was actually happy for her. As she was about to leave, he also revealed something surprising. Taehyung had been present at Wooju's performance that day. Meanwhile, Taehyung was playing with Wooju when the little boy suddenly said, "I love you, uncle." Taehyung's face lit up with joy. Soon Hyunjin joined them, and the three of them began playing together happily. She asked Taehyung if he had really attended Wooju's performance that day, and he admitted that he had. Then, joking loudly, Taehyung suddenly shouted that Hyunjin was his girlfriend. The neighbors overheard him and immediately started clapping and cheering. Embarrassed, Hyunjin blushed deeply and ran into the house. Once inside, she scolded him playfully, telling him that everyone would start teasing her now. She also warned him not to say things like that in front of her co-workers because workplace gossip spreads quickly. Taehyung pretended to be jealous of her manager, joking that the manager had been her first love. Later that night, Taehyung asked Hyunjin if they could live together again just like before. She happily agreed. Meanwhile, the employees at Amy Chu's company were surprised to learn that Museong had canceled his flight to the United States. After finishing work that day, Taehyung went to Wooju's kindergarten and met the caretaker. She told him that Wooju had started speaking more and had developed a habit of saying the word no all the time, something she jokingly called the no syndrome. Taehyung found it amusing. Later, while sitting with the neighbors in the neighborhood, they suggested going on a camping trip together. When Hyunjin returned home from work, she found Taehyung already there, and he had cooked dinner for her. While they were eating together, Hyunjin suddenly noticed a letter from the court. It stated that officials wanted to interview them regarding Wooju's guardianship. The authorities needed to determine whether they were capable of raising him properly or if the court would take custody of the child. Seeing the letter made Hyunjin anxious, but Taehyung reassured her that they would pass the interview and that she shouldn't worry. They began preparing seriously for the interview. Meanwhile, Taehyung's friend discovered that Hyunjin and Taehyung were now in a relationship and felt genuinely happy for them. When the couple returned home later, they spent hours playing with Wooju until they were all exhausted. Wooju turned the entire house upside down with his playful energy. Late that night, after putting him to sleep, Hyunjin and Taehyung talked quietly. Taehyung suggested that they go on a small trip during the weekend, something that would also become their first official date. Hyunjin happily agreed. The next morning, the three of them took a car and headed out together. They arrived at a restaurant, but unfortunately, the sign outside said children were not allowed. So they began walking through the streets, searching for another cafe. Along the way, they took photos together, laughed, and played happily with Wooju. Hyunjin thanked Taehyung for bringing her outside and cheering her up. She admitted she was worried about the upcoming court interview. Taehyung encouraged her and assured her they would succeed. That evening, while driving home, they stopped at a mall to find a restroom so they could change Wooju's diaper. Taehyung returned to the car to retrieve something they had forgotten. Meanwhile, Hyunjin and Wooju stayed inside the mall. Suddenly, Wooju disappeared. Hyunjin panicked instantly. Her hands began shaking as fear rushed through her. Soon, Taehyung returned, and together they frantically searched the entire mall. Finally, they went to the mall's office and asked the staff to announce Wooju's name over the speakers. Moments later, they received a call. Wooju had been found. An elderly woman had discovered him and brought him to safety. She gently warned them to be more careful next time. Relieved, they returned home. Hyunjin was still shaken by the incident, but Taehyung comforted her until she finally calmed down. That night, the three of them fell asleep together. The next morning, while Hyunjin was at work, she received a call from the court reminding her about the guardianship interview. She rushed out immediately and headed to the courthouse. Taehyung had already arrived, while Hyunjin arrived slightly late. When she entered the interview room, she was shocked to discover that the woman conducting the interview was the same elderly woman who had found Wooju at the mall. During the interview, the woman pointed out that Hyunjin often arrived late to work. She also mentioned that Wooju was picked up from kindergarten by different people on different days. Then she called Tae-hyung into the room as well. Looking at them seriously, she asked, "Is it true that there are conflicts between you and the child's father, and that he once tried to claim Wooju for inheritance purposes?" Hyunjin tried to explain that both she and Tae-hyung were still new to raising a child and were doing their best. But the interviewer shook her head. She told them bluntly that, based on what she had seen, the two of them were not suitable to raise Wooju and that they would not pass the evaluation. But Tae-hyung still tried to plead with the female investigator. He begged her to reconsider, yet she firmly told him that the final decision would be made by the court. After that, he and Hyunjin left the place in silence. When they arrived home, they found the neighbors outside, still looking after Wooju. The elderly neighbor immediately sensed that something was wrong with Hyunjin. She asked what had happened, but Hyunjin, unable to answer, quietly went straight inside the house. It was Tae-hyung who later explained everything to the neighbors, and they were all deeply saddened by the news. Meanwhile, Hyunjin began cleaning and organizing the house. She kept remembering the investigator's words, that she would come to inspect the home and determine whether it was truly a suitable place for a small child. At the same time, some people from the food company asked Tae-hyung to film and photograph their products again. He agreed, even though the date they requested happened to be the exact same day the investigator was supposed to visit the house. When he told Hyunjin about it, she said, "I'll handle things here and take care of Wooju, so you should continue your work." Tae-hyung was touched and relieved by her words. Later, Hyunjin picked Wooju up from kindergarten, but when she brought him home, she realized he had a fever. She immediately started searching for medicine to reduce it, but she could not find any. She called her neighbor friend for help, yet the woman told her that she was out and not at home. As Hyunjin kept searching desperately for the medicine, Wooju quietly made his way out of the door. A moment later, he slipped and fell down the stairs. When Hyunjin ran out in panic, she was horrified to find the investigator already there, holding the child. The woman coldly told her that she had neglected Wooju. Soon after, child protection authorities were called. They informed Hyunjin that she was not capable of taking responsibility for the little boy. Her neighbors tried to defend her, but despite everything, Wooju was taken away from her while she stood there crying helplessly. Just then, Tae-hyung arrived. The neighbors hurriedly explained everything that had happened. Shocked and heartbroken, he immediately ran to the child welfare office. There, he found Hyunjin crying uncontrollably. She kept blaming herself, saying that she had failed Wooju and neglected him. Tae-hyung tried his best to calm her down and comfort her. The next day, Tae-hyung encouraged Hyunjin to eat something. He gently reminded her that he would always stand by her side no matter what happened. Still, both of them missed Wooju terribly. His little chair at home sat empty, making the silence in the house even more painful. Later, while Hyunjin was outside throwing away the trash, her manager called her and asked what had happened. She told him that Wooju had been taken away, but that she still hoped she would be able to bring him back home. As soon as he ended the call, the manager immediately contacted his friend, who was a lawyer. Meanwhile, their neighbors had already begun helping Tae-hyung and Hyunjin fix up the house, hoping it would strengthen their case and help them bring Wooju back. At the same time, the manager met with his lawyer friend and asked how the matter was progressing. The lawyer told him that the case was moving in a good direction. Later, while Hyunjin was sitting at her desk at work, she noticed that her manager's chair was empty. At that moment, she remembered the day she and Tae-hyung had gone to the child welfare office and were told that a man named Yoon Seong had submitted a formal request asking for Wooju to be returned. He had explained everything clearly on their behalf. The staff had then apologized to Hyunjin for the way they had treated her unfairly. As she sat there thinking, Tae-hyung suddenly called her and told her the news she had been longing to hear. Wooju had been returned. The moment Hyunjin came home and saw Wooju again, she was overwhelmed with joy. Soon after, the investigator began carefully inspecting every corner of the house. She noticed that pictures of Wooju were everywhere. As she looked around, she remembered all the interviews she had conducted. The kindergarten director, the neighbors, and even the manager had all spoken highly of Hyunjin and praised how much she cared for the child. Finally, the investigator said, "I can see that you truly love this little boy, but the court will give you the final answer." That night, Hyunjin and Tae-hyung put Wooju to sleep together. At last, the day of the court hearing arrived. All of the neighbors stood outside the courthouse doors in support, while inside, Hyunjin, Taehyung, and little Wooju waited anxiously. In the end, the court ruled in Hyunjin's favor and officially recognized her as the rightful guardian of Wooju. They were overwhelmed with happiness, and outside the courthouse, the neighbors immediately began celebrating with joy. When Taehyung and Hyunjin returned home, they spent the rest of the day happily enjoying each other's company, sharing beautiful moments, and opening their hearts to one another with love. The next day, Hyunjin went to see her manager and thanked him sincerely for all the help he had given her, because thanks to that support, she had finally been reunited with Wooju. The manager told her that it was nothing unusual, he was simply glad he could help. But then he shared some heartbreaking news. He would soon be leaving for the United States to work at another branch of the company. Hyunjin was deeply saddened by the news, but he gently told her not to worry, because before he left, he would still attend Wooju's birthday party the following week. Hearing this reminded Hyunjin that she and Taehyung had already been talking about Wooju's birthday and how they wanted to celebrate it. Meanwhile, Taehyung went to his friends and asked them to help him find a beautiful place where he could throw a birthday party for the little boy he loved like his own nephew, who was about to turn 2 years old. His friends happily promised to help with everything, even the photography. At the same time, Hyunjin told the neighbors about the birthday plans. They were all delighted. One of the women excitedly offered to prepare Wooju's birthday cake, while some of the men said they would sing at the party to make the celebration even more special. Soon, everyone started helping with the preparations. Taehyung's friends decorated the hall, arranged the food, and made sure everything, including the cake, was perfectly ready. Finally, Wooju's birthday arrived. The three of them dressed beautifully for the occasion. Even Amy and her husband attended the celebration. The atmosphere was warm, cheerful, and full of joy. The manager came as well. During the party, Taehyung and Hyunjin gave heartfelt speeches, thanking everyone for the love and support they had shown them. All the guests smiled warmly and wished Wooju a life filled with happiness. In the end, Wooju became the one who united his aunt and his uncle, bringing them together as a real family. And that is where our film came to an end.